That is going to be, if I start going to detail it, each itself is a big area. Anyway, so let's go ahead and get started. So you see the first picture here. What does it show? The people are crossing the road, right?
A lot of people, it's daytime, crossing the road.
Correct. So have you noticed that when you cross the road, the traffic stops on the both sides, and many a time even before the walking light is on, the people start crossing the street, or when they are crossing the street, they are looking straight ahead. They don't look left and right, and many time accidents happen because people think it's the responsibility of the drivers to save their life, right? It's not their responsibility to look around. Like if somebody is intentionally driving in that traffic, or your brake fails, or something, anything can happen. But once the light is on, you don't look around, you just straight walk, right? That is something that is called lack of situational awareness. When you're crossing that street, or for that matter in the mall, and say there are two stories, you're walking straight, you just look around, you don't look up and all around, right? And most of the people do that, and a lot of people do that, I would say. So when you're crossing the street and you're not looking around, basically what you're doing is keeping yourself for the danger. You're not de-riskifying yourself. You're trying to go and you're assuming a lot of things, like people are going to go and take care of your life. You'll be fine. It's light. Everybody is going to follow the rules, and you will cross the street. That's a dangerous assumption. And believe it or not, in the corporate world, in the companies, when we develop the product, we develop exactly like that. We don't look around. We are given a requirement or some need, business needs. We just go around and start implementing it as if nothing else will happen. No other factors are going to change. So this today's discussion is going to be lit about that, like how we can make sure that whenever we are developing a product, for that matter, doing anything, then we should have that 360-degree mindset, that we look around everywhere. So the book actually I've written, and a lot of people ask me like, why didn't you write detail is how to implement that agility, or that innovative product development in your book? Why you wrote this first? So that book is coming, but this is first I wrote about this because it's very important to be aware of the what we call the situational awareness, to be aware of your surroundings. So how can you use that, right? How can you use that information in your day-to-day life? So basically, I'm going to go and talk about that. So this is like those who practice good situational awareness, they're always aware of their surroundings. It is also called in some other way in product management system thinking. But when we think about the system, we only think about the system which is within the company. But this is much more than that. This is not about just the situation within the company or the systems within the company. For example, the product group, engineering group, operations, marketing, HR, and all those things, and how they interact. That is important. But this is also about looking around the industry. And if you don't look around the industry, for example, when Toyota was trying to go and make an efficient car engines, they took care of everything. Why? Because they wanted to create a car which is less polluting. They wanted to create a car which is highly efficient. So they put all the engineering. Still, when the car landed in the streets of Mexico City, or for that matter in Delhi, it just added to the pollution. It was already overpolluted city. So probably they did not serve the purpose of the masses, didn't serve the purpose of the ecosystem. They created a car which was efficient, but in the ecosystem, it kind of basically failed. It did not serve the purpose of solving that the pollution problem. It did not take into account. So they were kind of then myopic in their view, in their system. The environment was not there. If they would have thought of the environment, they would have come out with Prius first, or maybe some electric car, rather than making the system efficient. You see what I'm saying? So that's how, when you're trying to solve the problem, you don't only have to look inside the company, you will have to look around everywhere. Like, what is the best solution that is important for the customer? That is important. And that's only possible if you interact with those systems around you. And why? The ability to accurately perceive elements in your environment with respect to time, space, meaning, and their status, and future state. Toyota did not look into the future state, because if one variable changes, your solution may become redundant. So, what are those variables and how those variables are changing and why you need to know that? That's what I have described in my next one. Is this is like a very high level. Let me try to make it bigger. This is kind of a very high level, and this is, I've just put some of the stuff for your information, is much deeper, much broader than that. So you can see that how internet, social, mobile, cloud, big data, 3D printing, cognitive system, internet of thing, internet of everything, robotics, all these things are coming, right? And the technology is progressing, and that's not just it. There are a lot and lot more than that. Similarly, in the economic paradigm, in the disruptive scenarios, the things that's changing is, the autonomous car, connected car, smart homes, smart cities, next generation automation, sharing economy, smart factory, intelligent buildings, maker economy, autonomous vehicle, energy internet. Each itself is a very deep area, and it's coming, and each one will interact with the other and create a huge impact on the ecosystem. So, for example, if you are in England, and if you are in the banking system and you are developing a product, and if you don't take into account all the social banking, all the banking that has been created recently, like Cabbage and all others, eToro, that's also very popular there. If you don't take into account those social lending, then basically whatever solution you're providing to your customer may not sell, because the customer needs, because that one particular variable has changed. Now the people are collecting their money, grouping their money, and then they are trying to become lender together. That has never happened before. This happened only because social media, internet, and all those things have enabled them. So you have to be very much conscious of the things that's going around in your environment. So this is not only about listening to the customer and their aspirations, their needs. This is also about studying the world around you. If you don't study the world around you, very soon you will be outdated, very quickly, because things are changing so fast, and it's allowing those disruptive scenarios to appear, and then people are coming with some very good innovative solutions. I don't need to name them, but Airbnb, Uber, and all those things were the part of that. Just one app, one navigation system, and they disrupted the world. They tried to solve the problem which the entire industry, I mean, the transport industry, the urban infrastructure, they have failed. So they responded by making every person with a car a driver, right? Like, share the ride. So that way, so many other innovative solutions will come, and people will take advantage of existing resources to come out with those new solutions. And that's why it's very important to be situationally aware. What is that? Why it's not changing? Okay, here. Okay. So this again is other pointers, like how the economy is changing, like steady and linear to volatile, disruptive. Market is changing, slow, linear. The same thing which I talked about earlier. The products previously used to be long, means like it will take 7 months, 8 months, and it's going to survive on the shelf for next 7, 10 years. So it was okay. Things were slow. Now things have become super fast because of all those changes which I just talked about. So life cycle of product has become very, very small. I mean, it's very much possible. Like if you launch a product within 6 months, you will find like you are outdated. Somebody has already come out with that product. And the key economic drivers is like innovative and adaptive firms, the firms that can adapt fast, that can move fast. And when I say adaptive means, I have seen many companies, and I have worked with one of the companies. Of course, I won't won't name that product, but we worked. They took 2 years to develop that product, and by the time they developed that product, they realized that there are many other innovative products that's already come in the market, and within 6 months of launching that product, they had to close it. Even though they launched the product for their internal customer, they have a huge internal customer base, like some hundred millions. Even though they have a captive customer base, there were so many innovative products that they could not sell their own product to their own customers. So that's the kind of competition you're talking about. So it's very important that you have to be adaptive to their need. And if you don't, then you're going to go and lose. That's what it is. The fast eats the slow. The other people who are faster, they came back with innovative solutions. Same way, the hierarchical to flat network structure that we all talk about on the LinkedIn all the time, right? And the leadership command and control to self-organized. And self-organized, self-managing does not mean self-formed, but it can also be that. And the skills, multi-skilled, and multi-skill is very important. So here, which I was talking about, like how it opened that disruption, because technology progressed very fast, the business changes and the societal changes, all those things are happening, but not that at speed. So what has happened, that create a huge gap, and that's why people are coming out with all those new disruptive ideas, new ideas. And that's where, when you're doing the product development, whether you're doing for the Chase, Citibank, insurance company, or any other company, if you do not take into consideration your surroundings, how people have failed. Why there is a recently I heard of a company in India that has grown into like 900 million valuation in 9 months, and they are like trying to go and give you a delivery within 30 minutes or less than 30 minutes. So they deliver stuff to your door in less than 30 minutes, super fast. Many other companies tried that, they have failed. There are few still working in that area. But this person, 18-year-old, 19-year-old guy from Stanford, he came out with the idea and started delivering that. And that too in an Indian setup where you can understand, especially in the Bangalore kind of traffic you have. But coming out with that kind of a solution, he said that he tried different models for a year. He entirely studied the situation around him, like what are the factors that will prohibit him, what are the things that is going to go and fail that person. That is the critical thing. If you do not study all that thoroughly, that's what we call discovery. So for 1 year, he created several models. And they said like, no, this is not going to work. No, this is not going to work. No, this is not going to work. And finally, he launched something that started working. And again, if he thinks that he has got the answer, then he's going to be doomed. He will have to continuously discover as things change. The new entrants will come in the market, new competition will come. The nature of delivery may change. That person now he's using like bikes for delivering in the short distance, and the maximum distance that he is allowing is 1.8 kilometer. Like if somebody orders something, the stuff must be available within 1.8 kilometer. But say tomorrow you get drones, and drones started delivering, then you will have to compete with the drones. So that's an additional factor they will have to keep into consideration. So that way, that's what I'm saying is like these killer apps that is coming, this person, anybody who wants to go and operate in this market must be 100% situationally aware. And if that person is not aware, they're going to get surprised. So how do we create a product that people love? So you will have to really, for everything, and when this agile movement came, a lot of people think is like, and it's still a lot of people think is all about the technology. The technology team has to organize themselves. They'll create a Scrum teams, or somebody said like, no, go even beyond that, create a safe team, and basically all you have to do is to, and for that matter, the Kanban and flow and all the concepts came in They say like all you have to do is to make sure that the product is flowing nicely without any hindrance, and there are small tasks, and just put in the line, the things are flowing, and you're fine. That is solving just one part of the puzzle. So if you have a Rubik cube, you have solved just one face of the cube of the six. How many faces are there in the Rubik cube? Six, right? So just one. The five others are still left. And that's where you have to really invest in the discovery. Even if you know the answer, you have to, and the discovery does not end at any stage. Discovery is something. So first, there is a concept of a product and engineering. This is an outdated concept. This is the concept of industrial era. It must completely go. Product and engineering is the one thing. Some part is done by those people who go and interact with the market, and the best way it's done is if everybody, including engineers, they interact with the market. But people can ask like why everybody has to be there, especially in the large companies. Small companies possible. So yes, so in that case it has to be overlapping. Means at some stage when you're interacting, doing the discovery with the customer in the market, you'll have to start asking those questions like, where are you now? What are you doing? Where are you going? What is your goal? What are the customer needs? Do you understand the customer? Do you get your customer? You know, all those things. And we did it recently, that we knew that opportunity. We knew that opportunity exists in the market. But when we talked to the customer, we got totally different answers, very different answers. So we'll have to pivot and come out with a solution which customer wanted. They say like, hey, why you are giving us sophisticated solutions? We want this. So that way you have to really understand the need and intent of the customer. Once you understand the need of the customer, the discovery does not stop there. It goes even beyond that. Now you're going into the domain of technology where we do all the Scrum and other things. But there should be no handoff. The moment you hand off, the entire discovery is lost. So you will have to work together in an overlapping manner. And why this is important? Because the two systems, when they overlap, the power of the system is in interactions. That interactions will happen together. And now in that interaction, you have a third thing in the mix, which is called customer. So now both engineering and product are looking at the customer together. So basically there is a complete overlap between these three. Then what happens? Then they're creating the product. The discovery portion is not lost. They do not do discovery over discovery. They means the engineering teams. They do discovery together with the product team, not for the whole time, but at least for 50% of the time, so that they really understand the intent. And when they understand the intent, they come up with wonderful product goals, and they continue discovery even in the engineering side, like what is the best way, how I can create those NFRs, non-functional requirements, how I can create an innovative solution that is end-to-end, how I can meet my goals in the shortest period of time. So everything turns into kind of what we call prototype, but actually it's not a prototype, it's actually a working product. But that will not happen if we restrict our interactions. And if we restrict our interactions, if we limit our knowledge about the market, about our ecosystem, our subsystem, our other systems, then you know what is going to happen. People are going to go and work in silos, and the product that you're creating is without being situationally aware. You're not aware that this. I've seen cases where the product team agreed, the engineering team agreed, and they started creating only to realize the support team is not available to support the product for next 2 years. You're gone, right? So this is a very simple example, but if you take everything into consideration, all the subsystems is much more complicated. And if you do not solve that problem early in the game, then the chances of your success will significantly diminish. And like I said, so one of the best methods to solving this problem is not to let them happen. The kind of problem which I talked about. Like if you do not engage engineering upfront, if you do not engage customer, if you're not increasing that interactions and assuming that you know the stuff. And another thing that happened, when we are looking into the assumptions, we created a nice journey map and we started looking into each assumptions. We're surprised Like a lot of those assumptions, we were absolutely unaware why customer would buy that product, why this product is appealing, what is our strategy, what if they do not like the product, what we're going to do, what should be our this thing. So we assume a lot of things like, oh, okay, we are a big company, we are going to, people are going to go and like the product, they're going to go and do it anyway. So those assumptions is same thing like I talked about earlier, like crossing the street blindfolded, like only I'm looking straight without looking around. So you have to look around, you have to look at your customer and you have to interact with it. You have to look with your engineering teams, you have to look with the operations, you have to look with the support, you have to talk to any other thing that can impact you, legal, risk, compliance, anything, everybody. If you do not, then basically what you're doing is walking straight, completely unaware of the things going around that. And if you interact with them, the one thing that you're doing is you're solving your problem. You're not letting problem to happen because you're already kind of thinking through it, talking to them. And one of the things which I wrote yesterday in my post is, which I've also mentioned here, that if you want to be agile, the most important thing, like if you can make adjustments, react and fix issues, in short, you be agile. Agile is basically a emergent property. If you just implement some frameworks, safe, scrum of any of those things, and you think you have become agile, no way, you cannot. Because agile does not lie in those frameworks. Agility lies in those interactions. So the more interactions you have, the real-time interactions with your subsystems, in this case, a product team can interact with the engineering team and they should actually work as like one team, and they interact with all of the teams in the ecosystem. They interact with their customer often, literally interviewing them every week. If they have very heavy interactions, you are that much agile. If you reduce those interaction and just hand off, virtually interaction become get closer to like 1% or closer to zero, I would say, then you are less agile. You can have wonderful frameworks, you can have all the practices, you can have lots of theories there, but still you won't be agile because your interactions are diminishing. So the most important thing is to have those interactions, this communication channel open all the time and keep those. So, and that's why I say it's an emergent property. It emerges as you interact with the people and your surroundings. And when I say interact, is not just talking, also studying, observing, finding out. So when you're creating a product, so one of the things which I always suggest, any company I go, when you're creating a product, the first thing that you should look for is like, what kind of data I'm going to collect? What are those data? Tons of data, and how I'm going to get a meaning out of that. That should be part of your strategy. Like how I'm going to go and increase my interaction with my customers, my surroundings, with all of the things. What are the things? What are the behaviors should I observe? And if you do not bake into your product getting data, again, you're going blindfolded. You do not know where you're going. So it's super important that you do not become rigid in interactions. You interact more. The more you interact, more data you collect. The more you interact with your subsystem in your ecosystem, the more agile you're going to be. And then you can claim like, yes, now we are moving towards agility. Not because that you have implemented certain practices, but because you're interacting with your systems and subsystems, you're understanding. So one question that you guys are going to ask me, like, how will I remember that what are my subsystems, who do I need to interact, and what are the things I need to ask, and I can still be agile? If you're saying like frameworks are not that important, I'm not saying it's not that important. You cannot just rely on the framework, that's what I'm saying. Then how would you know what are the elements that I know that that's going to make me agile? Or I will say like my interactions. For example, I give let me become the devil's advocate. You started working big on a project and you're interacting with your customer consistently, and you're interacting with your engineering team consistently, but you're delivering something in production every year, every 6 months. So you can argue like, hey, I interacted so much with customer, I interacted so much with my engineering team and other teams, but we are going to deliver every 6 months or every year. Why we are not agile? We increase the level. Yes, you increase the level of interaction to the level you could on the one side, but you actually failed on the other side because you did not produce something that's tangible, that you didn't complete the loop. You did not go to the customer within a small item. So when I talk about the mental models that you have to carry along is, you always have to work small. You're always so working a small, being customer centric, taking that product, going to the customer with that small product. These all are part of your mental model that you will have to keep in mind all the time. So this emergent property is well supported by your mental models, like how I can work small, how I can see end-to-end journey. When an engineer is working, the engineer must very well understand the entire journey that happened, that product worked with the customer, and they try to understand the mindset of the customer. That engineer should not be devoid of. They should really understand, because that will help them with coming out with some creative solutions. If you stop them, if you devoid them of that information, basically they are again walking blindsided. If engineers do not create a small product, either because the technology is not supporting it, or the stories or epics were or features were not written that way, and they're working big, again you are limiting the interaction with the customer. In the end, you're going to the customer once in a 6 months, means your interaction is very poor with the customer on the other hand. So these interactions must increase by all means at all stages. And the more you interact, I will say even during the demo, invite your customer if possible, and then interact with them. So the more you interact, the higher, the more your situational awareness is going to be, the more you will know like how things are happening, what are happening all around you, and you will deliver some awesome product. So if you write epic stories without discovery, create solutions without, yeah. So there is another important thing is multiple designs. A lot of time when the engineers do, they create one design and then go again. That's going like walking the straight, looking straight. You will have to really understand what are the other possible options you have, what are the other technology that you have. If a company is not exploring the technology, the new technology around them that's available or that's coming up, then again they're walking kind of blindfolded or looking straight, right? And these are the interactions which I'm talking about. If you increase them, better technology, creating a better roadmap, like how you're going to go over in adoption of the technology, how you're going to go over in inviting customer into your mix, how you're going to go and insource all those ecosystem in your flow. If you do not do that, you're basically limiting your interaction. You're relying more on the handoffs, more on the dependencies. So dependencies is not is there. Dependencies will be there. But how you reduce those dependencies, how you de-riskify, that basically is about being situationally aware. Find all dependencies, de-riskify, understand, interact early in the game, and then you can go and create a product. So what is discovery? Basically, I'm going to go and just wrap it very quickly. So discovery, there are many ways that you can do it, like framing, planning, ideation, prototyping. I'm not going to go into detail of this. If you need, I can later, not today. And testing value, testing feasibility, testing viability, visibility, everything that you can go into. So there are multiple techniques available, but these techniques do not confine yourselves to only talking to the customer. This go all the way to the end. And then again, delivering a wonderful product to the customer, and then finding out from them, is it really wonderful or not? And then adjusting and adapting there. Big companies are disadvantaged, and how we can respond to the situation. What your team is currently doing, what your team think is possible, what you think is possible, and what is actually possible. These all the things, what is actually possible, that you cannot, unless you're completely situationally aware, unless you interact with all the systems, all the subsystems, and I'm using the word all. You must maximize interaction. Somebody asked me like, hey, if I start doing for each and every opportunity, it's going to take me a month or probably more. So be it. If it takes you a month, over the period you will become efficient. But to spend more than a month and understand it deep, understand your system, your ecosystem, your customer deeply, if you don't do that, what will happen? You'll create a product that nobody needs. So you started wasting your time. Okay. So I will stop for your questions if you have any questions.